I am 79 years old. I live alone now, in a house that still remembers noise, chairs pushed under tables that no one pulls out anymore, a hallway that echoes even when I walk softly. Most mornings, I wake up before the sun, not because I want to, because sleep doesn't hold me the way it once did. And when the world is quiet like that, there's nowhere for the truth to hide. That's when you finally see where your life actually went, not the version you rehearsed, not the story you told other people, the real one. I'm not saying any of this for sympathy. I don't need it. Sympathy is something you want when you still believe time might make things right. I'm saying this because I don't have much time left to pretend I don't understand what I spent it on. There were things I devoted decades to that turned out to be a waste. Not loud mistakes, not scandals or disasters, respectable wastes, the kind people approve of, the kind that look responsible, the kind that slowly empty you out while everyone tells you you're doing fine. I didn't realize they were stealing from me until there was almost nothing left to steal. I used to believe life would eventually slow down and explain itself, that one day I'd wake up with clarity, understand what mattered, and finally adjust course. No one tells you this. Life never pauses to give you insight. It just keeps moving. And then one day, you're old, and the clarity arrives when the choices are already behind you. The first waste of time was waiting to feel ready. I did this my entire life. I waited to feel confident enough, established enough, certain enough. I told myself there was a version of me in the future who would know what he was doing. And that man would act. In my 30s, I said I needed more experience. In my 40s, I said I had responsibilities. In my 50s, I said it wouldn't be practical anymore. In my 60s, I said it probably wouldn't matter. Here's the truth. I never felt ready, not once. I just got older. I waited to tell people how much they meant to me because it felt awkward. I waited to leave jobs that drained me because it felt irresponsible. I waited to travel because it felt indulgent. I waited to speak honestly because it felt dangerous. Readiness never arrived. What arrived instead were funerals, retirement letters, a body that stopped cooperating without warning. When you're young, waiting feels harmless. It feels like patience, like maturity. After 50, waiting quietly becomes a way of letting life decide for you. And life is not gentle when it decides on your behalf. The second waste of time was trying to be respected by everyone. I don't mean kindness, I mean shaping myself so I wouldn't disappoint people who were never living my life. I learned early how to be agreeable, useful, reliable, how to say yes before I even checked the cost. It worked. People trusted me, praised me, spoke well of me when I wasn't in the room, and slowly I disappeared from my own life. I stayed late at work while my children learned to stop asking if I'd be home for dinner. I absorbed complaints from people who never asked how I was holding up. I swallowed opinions in rooms where honesty would have cost me approval. Respect, I learned too late, is a hungry thing. It's never satisfied. The moment you stop feeding it, it vanishes. When I retired, the phone didn't ring much. The praise dried up fast. The people I bent myself for moved on without noticing the bend had taken something permanent out of me. After 50, you don't get reimbursed for decades of self-erasure. You just feel the absence of the life you didn't live while trying to be acceptable. The third waste of time was confusing, busy with necessary. I wore exhaustion like proof of worth. If I was tired, I felt important. If I had no time, I felt needed. My days were packed with obligations that sounded reasonable when explained out loud. I told myself this was adulthood, that rest was weakness, that slowing down would cause everything to collapse. Then one day I had to stop, and nothing collapsed. The world kept spinning, systems adjusted. My absence was inconvenient, not catastrophic. What didn't return was my attention, my presence, the parts of myself I had postponed so long, they no longer recognized me. I missed weeknight conversations that never came back. Idle afternoons I kept rescheduling. The sound of my own thoughts before urgency drowned them out. Being busy protected me from deeper questions, questions about whether I was happy, whether I liked the life I was maintaining, whether I truly knew the people I was doing it for. After 50, busy doesn't protect you. It just makes the years disappear faster. The fourth waste of time was avoiding difficult conversations. I called it peace. Maturity? Being the bigger person? It wasn't. It was fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being disliked. Fear that honesty might cost me something I wasn't prepared to lose. So I stayed quiet. Let resentments harden. Let misunderstandings stretch into years. Let relationships decay through silence instead of conflict. There are people I loved deeply who drifted away not because we fought, but because we never said what needed to be said. Apologies I rehearsed and never delivered. Truths I softened until they meant nothing. Now some of those people are gone, and there's no conversation left to have, only a version of it that plays in my head when the house is quiet. After 50, silence becomes expensive. Every unsaid thing collects interest. And one day, the debt comes due when there's no one left to pay it to but yourself. The fifth waste of time was believing there would always be more chances. This one hurts the most because it felt so reasonable. I assumed relationships were durable by default, that people would always be there unless something dramatic happened, that health was stable until it wasn't. That time was abundant as long as I wasn't reckless with it. So I postponed visits, delayed calls, rescheduled moments that didn't feel urgent. Then one day, a call came that couldn't be returned. A chair stayed empty. A name shifted into the past tense. Nothing prepares you for how final really is. There are no extra chances folded into old age, only memories, and the knowledge that some of them could have been deeper if you hadn't assumed you'd get around to it later. After 50, someday quietly turns into never without asking your permission. The sixth waste of time was defining myself by what I produced instead of who I was. I was proud of being reliable, capable, the one who handled things, the one who didn't fall apart. But I never asked who I was when nothing needed fixing, when no one needed me, when I wasn't useful, when work ended. That question came for me all at once. I didn't know how to introduce myself without my former title. I didn't know how to sit still without feeling irrelevant. I didn't know how to feel worthy without output. And the people who loved me never needed any of that. They needed me present, honest, available. After 50, usefulness fades whether you want it to or not. And if that's all you built your identity on, the collapse is quiet, but brutal. The seventh waste of time was neglecting my inner life. I don't mean religion or philosophy. I mean listening to myself. I ignored intuition because it was inconvenient, dismissed sadness because it wasn't productive, outran grief instead of sitting with it. I thought avoiding feelings made me strong. What it actually did was make me numb. Now, in old age, everything I avoided has caught up. Memories surface without warning. Regrets arrive uninvited. And there's no distraction powerful enough to drown them out. If I had spent time earlier paying attention inward, it wouldn't feel so crowded now. After 50, the noise inside gets louder. And if you never learned how to listen, it can be overwhelming. I'm telling you this from the far end of things, from a place where the calendar matters, where the future is short enough to see clearly. I don't believe in reinvention at my age. I believe in honesty. If you're younger than I am, I'm not asking you to panic. I'm not asking you to fix everything at once. I'm asking you to notice. Notice what you're spending your time on. Notice what you keep postponing. Notice which parts of yourself you keep promising you'll return to later. Later is not guaranteed. It never was. If there's someone you keep meaning to call, understand this. Silence doesn't preserve relationships. If there's a truth you're carrying, time doesn't make it easier to speak. If there's a life you keep telling yourself you'll step into once things calm down, understand that things rarely calm down on their own. I don't have grand advice. I have lived, experienced it, and the weight of it. Time isn't cruel. It's indifferent. It doesn't reward patience or punish delay. It just passes. And one day, you look up and you're my age, sitting in a quiet house, finally understanding what mattered. I still have moments of peace, small ones, a warm cup of tea, birds in the early morning, a memory that makes me smile instead of ache. I'm grateful for those, but I would trade every achievement I ever chased for a few more years of presence when it mattered most. If this meant something to you, don't hold it dramatically. Hold it honestly. You don't need to change everything. Just don't waste time the way I did. There isn't as much of it as you think.